Hey Foundry, we are back for our last installment as we begin to assess some of these practices that we can begin to put in our lives, providing some different tips in the midweek format so that way we can begin to actually practice these things and they can begin to go from something we hear about on a Sunday morning to something that we're actually putting into our lives and beginning to practice each and every week. This last Sunday, Scott talked about this idea of solitude to close out our series. And solitude is kind of a weird word. It is kind of the quintessential opposite of the world in which we live, that is just loud and 24/7, where we're connected to everything and everyone at all times. But taking some time to slow down and to have some solitude can be very important, as Scott talked about this last week. So let me provide you with just a couple different tips on how we can begin to put this into practice in our own lives. The first way to develop some strategic habits when it comes to solitude: find a quiet place and take a 30-minute walk one day or more days this week. This may be at a local park. This may be, like my family, we live not far from Patapsco State Park. So getting out and going there and just allowing yourself to be in nature, I think can be a huge way that we can connect with God. It's a huge way that we can find this solitude in a busy world, in a world that is just constantly going and going and going. So trying to find where that is for you. Maybe you're going on vacation, and what you can do is you can go for a run, or you can go for a walk on the beach, and it'll provide that same sense of just solitude as you are trying to practice this. The second tip is this: build 30 minutes into your calendar for silence and solitude, if possible daily. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, like, this is impossible with my schedule. This is impossible because I have kids. But trying to think through, what are the times that I can actually begin to put this into my life? Can I do this for 30 minutes? Maybe, maybe not. But if you can't, try do it for 10 and begin to put it into your schedule each and every day, or even a couple days a week. Maybe you have to think strategically of, like, do I need to do this at 6 in the morning? Do I need to do this at 9 at night? And trying to just create this space where there is stillness, where there is solitude and there is silence. And in these moments, you can begin to think and not just be drowning out your thoughts. It is possible for all of us to try to find that space, regardless of whether it's 30 minutes exactly or if it's a shorter amount of time. So trying to find where we can do that, I think, is a huge tip in trying to develop this habit. The third thing is to start a journal. A journal is a great way for us to begin to process our thoughts and our feelings. It's a great way for us to begin to think through the dreams that we have for our lives. It helps us slow down and not just move from thing to thing, but instead begin to get inside of our brains and what are we actually doing? What are we thinking? What are the more motivations that I have? Why did I make the decisions that I made today? The fourth tip is this: to shut off your phone for 24 hours. Obviously, we've had similar ones to this each and every week. Turning off these devices that run our lives each and every day is vitally important for us to be able to put into practice some of these different habits where we can just step aside. And I know that for some of us that can be stressful because we have anxiety about what's going on outside of our phones, or we don't know what's happening to family members, or maybe there's even just the anxiety of, like, oh man, when I turn back on my phone after 24 hours, who knows how many little notifications I'm going to have, and that is going to be stressful in and of itself. But taking some time where we can shut off our phone and we can get away from it helps us to just get away from some of the notifications, get away from some of the just constant buzzing and vibrating and pings that we hear each and every day. Taking that time just to instead spend it with family, spend it by yourself, go do something fun, spend time with God, whatever that may be. But setting aside your phone for 24 hours as a way of just finding that solitude rather than this constant interruption that we live in with the pings and the vibrations that we feel each and every day from our phones. The last tip here is to read Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport and reconsider your technology rules, /hours, notifications, social media, etc. I think this is incredibly important. There are endless tools that have been developed with our phones at this point to help us when it comes to this. So taking some time to read this book provides some of the different ways that maybe we can put things into practice, but also begin just to research it through Google if that's an easier way for you to do that. What are some rules that I need to put in place in terms of my technology, my phone? For example, maybe that means, hey, I know someone who turns off the internet at a certain hour of the night because they know if the internet's on, it's not just they may get into things they shouldn't, but even more so, like they just may stay up and watch Netflix when they need to go to sleep. And so turning off the internet at a certain point of time may be that for you. I know for myself, like I have certain apps that I have limits where it says, okay, you've been on this app for 15 minutes today or 30 minutes today. Like you now are blocked out of it unless you put in a passcode to get through that. Or another one is on phones, you can set it up where you're not constantly getting buzzed or called by people that are just telemarketers or whoever, but instead just only getting notified for some of your contacts. These are different ways that help just provide some of that solitude and that rest in our lives. There's many, many more that I'm sure that you're aware of, some of which maybe you've put into practice. If you have more, feel free to let us know. Drop them in the comments if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, to share just some of the rules or the ways that you have developed just a perspective of how that you can be in charge of your technology and not your technology being in charge of you. This is going to conclude our series as we are talking about these different habits, more than a vacation. And I hope that these weeks have been helpful for you as we begin to put into practice some of these different traits of silence and solitude, Sabbath, serving. We hope to see you this upcoming week.